Now, thousands of pupils across the country have sat in for the government common entrance examination, the concours d'entrée en sixième as well as the concours d'entrée en première année technique examinations into secondary schools. The examinations took place within the strict regulations of a COVID-19 barrier measures. We shall be sizing up the conduct in this newscast. Ladonette Oni is standing by. The national coordinator of the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the Northwest and Southwest regions continues his awareness and sensitization tour in the Southwest region. Day 2 of his mission concerned discussions with various delegates. He has met with delegates from Fako, Kupem Wanenguba divisions as well as Lebialem in the Southwest region. And the Confederation of African Football CAF has decided to postpone the 2021 African Cup of Nations scheduled to take place in Cameroon. According to Amat Ahmad, the president of the Continental Football Body, the coronavirus has triggered the move. The competition will be played in January 2022. We shall be having these and many more in this newscast. Those are top stories. Good evening and thanks for joining us. You're watching the Primetime Newscast on STV. Just as we told you in the headlines, thousands of pupils in the country have sat in for the government common entrance examination, the concours d'entrée en sixième as well as the concours d'entrée en première année technique, which are all examinations into secondary schools in the country. The examinations have taken place within the safety guidelines against the coronavirus. Ladonette Oni visited a school in the economic capital and sought to know the conduct of the exercise. I report.
It was a busy atmosphere this morning, 30th of June, at the government bilingual college Deido, as the pupil of Class 6 and CM2 flocked into the school premises to grab the final ticket into secondary school. At the gate, parents who accompany their children go through their writing materials, making sure nothing has been left out, while dishing out last words of encouragement. It was a busy atmosphere this morning, 30th of June, at the government bilingual college Deido, as the pupil of Class 6 and CM2 flocked into the school premises to grab the final ticket into secondary school. At the gate, parents who accompany their children go through their writing materials, making sure nothing has been left out, while dishing out last words of encouragement. I read my books, I read everything. I revised the last note. I looked through past questions, and Papa wished me good luck with all the family. Sellers of school stationeries are not also left out, as they can be spotted marketing their products. In order to ensure a calm environment, the forces of law and order can also be seen parading the school. Entrance into school can only be granted to these students after self-identification, a prerequisite neglected by some parents, as in the case of this woman who was mistaken the examination center. They forgot the child's identity card in school. They called the principal, and the principal said it wasn't government bilingual school they do, but rather Central Bilingual College. And I blame the parents because since yesterday, the mother would have taken time to verify the child's thing. We have children who come and their name is not on the list. They don't have identity cards or a slip. In such a case, we can't let them enter the classrooms. At least, if they had their identity cards with them, we could keep them in a spare room. But when the child doesn't have any document, we can't let them enter. That's why we ask parents to go and see the principals in their various schools to verify before they start exams. At the school premises, measures to curb the spread of the COVID-19 have been put in place to ensure a successful examination. This is the first official exams after the outbreak of the COVID-19 in Cameroon, and over 180,000 students have answered present all over the nation's territory.
And in prelude to the examinations, the Ministry of Basic Education had earlier set in guidelines to ensure that school authorities take measures against the COVID-19 pandemic. In this respect, our reporter Ladonet Oni was at Lycée Bileng Daido and was keen on the seating arrangement as well as the availability of anti-COVID-19 kits in the school. Her report.
Washing of hands, wearing of face mask and checking of temperatures were some of the barrier measures practiced today at the government's bilingual secondary school Daido in the Douala-1 municipality as the pupil of Class 6 and their counterparts in the French subsystem sit in for their final exams.
Welcome to GBHS Daido. Today is the entrance to 6e for the Francophones in GBHS Daido. And we are ready to receive the students. If you can see from the gate, they are entering, and we have respected all the measures to avoid the sickness. You see, we have created 1 meter distance from each student at the entrance. You can see the buckets with soap, with water to wash their hands, and each student entering has a mask, and we kept some masks for those who will not have while entering. We are taking their temperatures before they go in.
While in class, these students are being placed in compliance to barrier measures and in respect to orders from the Ministry of Basic Education for not more than 24 pupils to be admitted in classrooms.
And before today, we have sent the message to parents through the radio and through the communique, and we pasted even at the entrance of the school, asking parents to send their children with their food. So during break, they will not be allowed to go outside. They will sit inside and eat, and they will go only at the end of the session. And the end is at 12:30. So I can say that we are ready to receive our children for the entrance examination.
Physical education is no longer practical but theoretical for these pupils.
Over to the Southwest region, the national coordinator of the Presidential Plan for the Reconstruction and Development of the Northwest and Southwest regions has begun meeting with divisional representatives from the 6 divisions of the region. The motive is to have their views on the presidential plan to reconstruct and develop the regions battered by the Anglophone crisis. Today's discussions feature delegates from Fako, Kupe Mwanenguba and Lebi Alem divisions, as we have an update from Josephine Binzi.
Finding a common ground between government proposal and the concerns of the Fako, Kupe Maninguba and Lebi Alem divisions characterized Port Tassong's Day 2 meeting in the Southwest region today. The Fako delegation have raised concerns on tribalism and nepotism, as well as their difficulties plaguing the communities which have derailed the journey of the average youth.
I want to suggest that we reconstruct the human person. We develop the human person, not putting aside all of the beautiful concepts that you have highlighted, the beautiful ideas, the wonderful objectives that have been highlighted here in this city. But some attention should be paid to human capital. That a lot of mind poisoning has taken place in our various communities, in which case our rural communities, especially in divisions like Ndia, Manu, Kupe Maninguba, Lebi Alem, have been bombarded with some kind of intoxication.
An economic revamp is the urgent need of the Moyuka subdivision, as bad roads leading to Munyenge from Moyuka is a priority for locals.
It's greatly known for its capabilities of cocoa production. The Excellency stretch of road from Moyuka to Munyenge has much to desire. I think if this road is constructed, it will go a long way to facilitate the transportation of crops, be it cocoa, to the main market. We all went to, we followed the proposal to these agricultural produce.
Peace and stability is a desiderata for two Anglophone restive regions, as it may be faced with more terrible economic fallouts if a viable decision has not been reached. The delegations of Manu, Meme, and Dian divisions will follow suit tomorrow as they look forward to table their concerns to the Reconstruction Committee.
After listening to the various divisional delegates, the national coordinator of the presidential plan to reconstruct and develop the Northwest and Southwest regions, Paul Tassong, says that their views will be taken into consideration. He has enjoined the population to key into the presidential plan, which he has described as a source of hope. Let's now listen to him.
At the end, we are taking off with the reconstruction and development plan for the South, the Northwest and the Southwest. Give and take, exclude about 1,000 billion for the farmer, and the Northwest and the Southwest will be left with about 2,500 billion. Also important to note is the plan as discussed and adopted at the Major National Dialogue had to be implemented in 3 phases. The first phase, which is the subject of our discussion today, is evaluated at about 90 billion. But it's important to note that this phase is very much what we call recovery. I'm not saying it's not development, but it's more of recovery. Recovery in the sense that the objective of this first phase is essentially to bring the socio-economy of the Northwest and the Southwest to the same level as the rest of the country. To re-establish the dignity of the citizens of the Northwest and the Southwest regions. That's why when we listen to the presentation, the kind of operations that you definitely came out of the presentation with are not macro, but relatively micro in nature.
Let's now talk something else. Ekumu Andre Magnus is Cameroon's new ambassador to the French Republic. He was named today by the head of state, President Paul Biya, in a presidential decree read on state radio this afternoon. The President of the Republic has also appointed new secretaries generals to about 30 ministries in the country. We shall be coming back with details in our subsequent newscast. Councillors of Manfe in Manu Division of the Southwest region have voted 32-year-old Tabenchon Robertson Ashu as the new mayor. He was voted today in a session at the Manfe Council. Tabenchon takes over from Priestley Ojong, who was brutally murdered last month by gunmen at his home village in Eshobi in Manu Division. Like the deceased mayor, Takon Chong also hails from the same village, that is Eshobi, and is a businessman in Manfi. Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea have resolved to de-escalate the tensions around their borders and withdraw troops. This is the main fallout of a high-level talk between defense authorities of both countries taking place in Yaoundé. Experts of both countries have submitted proposals for a peaceful coexistence to the ministers of defense, who will review them before submitting the reports to the two heads of states, that is President Paul Biya of Cameroon and Teodoro Obiangema Mbazogo of Equatorial Guinea, for action. Deliberations have taken place behind closed doors, and Equatorial Guinea, we learnt, has also decided to halt its project to construct a border wall. The defense talks between Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea in Yaoundé has held at a time when both countries are having increasing tensions at the border. Josephine Benzi revisits the uneasy relation between Yaoundé and Malabo, which recently led to the death of 7 persons.
Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea are currently on talks to jointly map out a disputed border area after skirmishes between the two troops and businessmen plying their trade around the boundary. In 2017, Equatorial Guinea had raised concerns about 30 armed men from Chad, Central African Republic, who planned to intrude and destabilize their government, and Cameroon at that time had claimed to have arrested 40 armed men but gave no details. This prompted Equatorial Guinea to seal her margins, complaining of security threats with Cameroon, but the crisis persisted. Both countries decided to create markets around the borders and instructed the military not to tolerate any unlawful intrusion. Things escalated between the country of Obiangema as Equatorial Guinea began to erect a wall along the 183-kilometer border as the military men crossed into River Ntem and erected milestones in the town of Kiosi, sparking condemnation from Cameroon. Cameroon's Army Chief René Claude Meka visited the spot just to see an expansionist ambition of neighboring Equatorial Guinea, accusing Cameroon of permitting terrorists to invade their land. Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea military officials and experts have met in Cameroon's capital Yaoundé to discuss how to see border tensions end between both countries. This important bilateral meeting shall also essentially delve into mutual collaboration modalities between both territories. Joseph Betty Asomo, Minister of Defense, says experts will agree on the modalities and finalize a definite way out of the crisis. Officials have stressed on diplomatic channels as a way to peacefully resolve tensions along the 180 kilometers border.
The Cameroon Employers Association, GICAM, with the collaboration of the Ministry of Public Health, has launched a program on African health entrepreneurship. The campaign is aimed at ensuring that employees maintain the good health of their workers for maximum productivity. Josephine Beans caught up with the project coordinator who sheds more light on this campaign.
It is not that we have seen a particular problem. It is a general problem, and we want to act so that the business must involve in the health of the workers.
What do you want to do? Concretely, what do you want to do?
Concretely is that the employees are not always in the capacity of giving the same level of taking care of the workers. So a program like this can benefit with the Global Fund donator and donors, yes, and other foundation. So we can organize in the enterprises. It's not a matter of health system. We have some partners that can help the health system to improve and to better take care of their population, their employees.
Insecurity is growing in leaps and bounds in the economic capital Douala as inhabitants decry constant harassments from bad boys who rob them of their money, phones, and other valuables using knives, machetes, and other light weapons. Our reporter Christek Asek Swele visited the Douala Central Market, which has become an epicenter of recurrent robberies by the men of the underworld. Her report.
This miscreant caught in a mob is part of the group of delinquents causing terror among the population in the littoral region of Cameroon. Most often looking like any regular man on the streets, these hoodlums are seen around pretending to be doing sports or hawking. Once their target gets a little distracted, in a twinkle of an eye, you only discover that you have been robbed. Machetes, knives, blades, Local pistols and other dangerous objects are some of the weapons which they use to attack their victims and disappear into thin air with their booty after their gruesome acts. At the Nouvelle Route Besenge neighborhood last September 2019, the miscreant was not so fortunate as the entire neighborhood, on the alert with the forces of law and order, joined hands, fished many of them out from their hideouts, jailed and successfully kept them under detention. A year later, this same phenomenon has resurfaced. This time, their targets are on traders and clients of the central markets of Douala. There are some guys who roam around the market. They snatch clients' bags and peek into their pockets. Few days ago, these hoodlums have emerged with a new strategy, operating on specific days, that is, Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays, at about 5 p.m. Taking their victims hostages, powerless, the victims cry out to their invaders, who are most often armed to their teeth. Coupled with this is the phenomenon of pickpocketing that is now so frequent in this market. There are thieves who also storm the market armed with machetes, harass their victims and flee into thin air. While calling on the forces of law and order, the only option remains engaging anti-gangs, which is the unanimous solution sought out by the collective of the Douala Central Market traders, who do not know which other solution to sought. The government could reinforce the security in the market or still send an anti-gang to tour the market and fish out all these miscreants. Daily activities in the Douala Central Market are now carried out with a lot of fear, while looking up to the judicial authorities to hear their pleas. Insecurity is fast gaining ground in the economic capital of Cameroon, a phenomenon which is gradually taking a toll under the watchful eyes of the local authorities. At this rate, one could think that these miscreants are above the forces of law and order.
Out of the country, U.S. lawmakers have called for an immediate investigation into news reports that Russia had bounties to Taliban-backed militants for the death of U.S. troops in Afghanistan. The White House has dismissed the claims, saying that U.S. President Donald Trump had not been briefed on those bounties. We have more with the VOA.
A Russian military unit offered money to Taliban-backed militants as a reward for the deaths of U.S. troops in Afghanistan. That U.S. intelligence community finding reached President Trump, according to a New York Times story. The White House called the Times report false.
There was not a consensus among the intelligence community, and in fact there were dissenting opinions within the intelligence community, and it would not be elevated to the president until it was verified.
That follows the president's Sunday tweet denying any knowledge of that intelligence, a position Senate Democrats say is inexcusable.
President Trump, you lose either way. If you weren't briefed on this important report, how can you run an administration where something this important is not brought to your level? And if you were told about the report and did nothing, that's even worse. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Congressional Republicans are also asking why the president was not briefed and called on Trump to take the allegations seriously. Democrats saying it's further proof Trump is not tough enough on Russian President Vladimir Putin.
The president is saying that he did not know of this. But where is the outrage from him that he didn't know about this? Where is his questioning and demands for information if we take this at face value? It is another example of this unusual hold that Putin has on this president.
The White House is pushing back on that criticism.
This president has been extremely strong on Russia, imposing sanctions on hundreds of Russian individuals, expelling dozens of diplomats, closing 2 Russian consulates, withdrawing from an INF treaty, and several other actions.
Both Russia and the Taliban have denied that bounties were offered, but the New York Times report was confirmed by British intelligence. Schumer and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have called for all members of Congress to receive a full briefing on the intelligence and how much the president knew. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.
In sports, the most prestigious football competition on the African continent, the African Cup of Nations, has been moved forward to 2022. The competition was initially scheduled for Cameroon in January 2021. It is the big story emerging from the Extraordinary Executive Committee of the Confederation of African Football (CAF), which has held today via video conference. For other resolutions that have also been taken, the African Nations Championship, also scheduled for Cameroon in 2020, has been postponed to 2021. The semi-finals of the CAF Confederations Cup and the finals are to be played in Morocco. Semi-finals of the CAF Champions League as well as the finals will be played in Cameroon at the Japoma Sports Complex, while the 2020 Women's African Cup of Nations has been cancelled. The Confederation of African Football (CAF) has also given birth to a new competition named the CAF Women's Champions League. We shall be having details on that in our subsequent newscast. And that does it for the primetime newscast on STV for today, Tuesday, June 30, 2020. We thank you very much for watching. Take the rendezvous at 8 p.m. for more news in the French language. From the entire team, have a good night.